Hey, and welcome to another episode of Reality Rights. I am author Ellie Alexander.
And I am the tech guy.
The tech guy. This is the podcast where we peel back the curtain on all things writing, publishing, bookish, you name it.
Sometimes Star Wars.
Sometimes Star Wars. Sometimes we get a little Taylor Swifty.
Yeah.
Depends on the mood.
There's always time for that.
Always time. But today we're going to go back to the bake shop. We're going to go back to the beginning of the Bakeshop Mysteries and give those of you who may not be familiar with the series a little insight into how it came to be, how it was developed, and also talk a little bit about the pros and the cons of writing a long-running series.
And we're going to do all of this without any spoilers.
No spoilers.
So if you haven't read the series, if you're not familiar with the books, if you're not very far into the series, don't worry. We're not going to give anything away that no victim names,
no victim
plots,
names.
Yeah, none of that.
No, none of that. No. So book 19 in the series is about to come out, which is bananas to me. It's wild. I still can't believe it.
It's a lot of books.
It's a lot of books. It's a lot of books in one series. And I'm writing book 21 because I'm always ahead. And so I'm currently working on the 21st book in the series.
Yeah, because book 20 comes out late February of next year.
That's 2025. Yeah.
It's not that far away, actually. But yeah.
No, it's going to be here in like a flash.
Right.
So I thought it would be fun to kind of give you a little rundown of the series thus far, like the tech guy said, without spoilers. But to start completely, my favorite thing is the pitch that started the series, which came from my editor, actually. It was her pitch. And that is the Gilmore Girls with murder.
Gilmore Girls with murder. Yeah.
The Gilmore Girls with murder. Which
yeah.
It kind of is.
Yeah. And you immediately thought of Ashland as the setting for this when she was talking to you about it.
Instantly. Yeah, without a doubt. My agent called and said, I think you like baking. Do you like baking? I get the sense that you like baking. Those were like the 3 sentences. I was like, yeah, where's this going? I don't know.
Understand. And also like, why? Like,
because this was a series that came to me through my agent, which is pretty cool because that doesn't always happen. Although it happens more often than you might think. And so we talked about this briefly before, but I had 2 weeks to put together a proposal and the first 3 chapters and really like a vision for the next 3 books in the series because I was hoping that it would be 3 books. So I came up with titles.
That's hilarious to think about now.
Right? Yeah. I came up with titles for 3 books. You were such a good sport because I was like, we have to go to Ashland like tomorrow.
Yeah. So we packed up and we drove to Ashland, which is about 5-hour drive with stops from Portland. And for those who don't know, Ashland is a tiny town of about 20,000 residents tucked in the Siskiyou Mountains of southern Oregon. It is within a stone's throw of the state of California. It is the last town on Interstate 5 before you cross the border and go into California. So it is at the southernmost tip of the state. And it's a beautiful town. It's dreamy. You can pet a bear if you want. No, don't pet the bears. You'll see bears. You will see bears, but don't pet them.
Definitely don't pet them.
Lots of deer, lots of turkeys. Yeah, just wildlife galore. Some rattlesnakes every once in a while. But yeah, it's just this little beautiful Pacific Northwest hamlet. In the mountains down there. So the elevation's about 2,000 feet. So it gets all 4 seasons, 5 now, if you count smoke season.
We don't like that season.
Unfortunate, but reality out here on the West Coast.
Yep.
And yeah, you were like, I know where, and I actually don't ever remember having been to Ashland before.
Yeah. You didn't grow up going to
No,
Ashland like I
no.
did. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And you did. So you're like, we're going to Ashland. I'm like, where is Ashland?
What's
Like
Ashland? Yeah.
I've never, I mean, and that's the other thing. Like every time people, when you say, you know, oh, when we lived in Ashland, you were like, oh, we live in Ashland, and they're like, Ashland, Kentucky, Ashland,
Yeah.
like there's like 7 other Ashlands in the U.S. and no, it's Ashland, Oregon.
Yeah.
But yeah, we packed up and we drove down.
We packed up, we drove down. We got tickets to see, do you remember the first play that we saw at Shakes and at the Oregon Shakespeare Festival?
Was that Count of Monte Cristo?
Yeah.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
It was the hottest night of our lives.
No, the play was fantastic. I don't want the darlings to think like, he's like complaining about it. The play was phenomenal, but it was like 185 degrees, and I'm probably only exaggerating by like 3 degrees. So
yeah.
And it was in the Elizabethan Theater, which is, for those of you who don't know, that Oregon Shakespeare Festival has multiple theaters within the city of Ashland, and the Elizabethan is the outdoor theater that is just absolutely phenomenal to see a play under the stars. But
I feel like all of your language today sounds like you're Jules. It's like osmosis has come through. This Hamlet, I'm loving it. Okay, yeah, keep going.
Like little known secret, I've read a few of the Bakeshop Mysteries. So I've lived many of the Bakeshop Mysteries. But it was so hot. I mean, I sweat through everything I was wearing, and that it was so I hats off to the actors that
my gosh,
because I don't know how they were wearing those costumes and like lived to do another performance. It was so hot.
Well, and like all the choreography for that, because the sword fighting and like it was a physical show for the actors too. Yeah.
But that was a phenomenal production. I really enjoyed that. It was a little long. It was like it probably felt longer because it was 185 degrees, but I think the runtime was just shy of 7 hours.
It was 3 hours, but
it felt like 7. It felt like 7.
That's fair. Yeah. So we spent like a week. We went everywhere. You and Sky Guy came along for the show. A zillion pictures.
How old was he for that first trip? That's wild.
I know. He was probably 7 or 8.
Yeah.
Maybe?
Yeah.
8?
Wow.
Something like that. I know. There was that massive rainstorm that came through and flooded downtown and mix and everything. Yeah. But
so that was crazy. We had 185 degree heat, and then like the next day it just started. We were driving down Siskiyou Boulevard, the main street that goes through Ashland, and it just started raining, and it kept raining and raining, and suddenly like the water was up halfway up on the wheels. There was so much water coming down. I was like, what is happening right now?
It flooded Ashland Creek. It flooded the plaza. It flooded all of the businesses there. All of these things, the hot Shakespeare under the stars, the flood, these have all made their way into the series because I don't have to stretch my imagination much because we would have these research trips. We went a lot too because we would go in the winter during the off season. We went a couple times, just you and me, which was fun. And I remember going to Oberon's, which is Puck's in the book, one night, and the funkiest band you can ever imagine. It was clear we were the only like non-SOU Southern Oregon University students in the pub. But it was really fun to see like different seasons and make sure that I was capturing the vibe of the off season versus what it was like during the summer when a gob of tourists were in town for Shakespeare. Yeah. COVID
kind of changed all of that, but I don't know what the numbers are now, but I remember hearing the stat that like the hundreds of thousands of tourists a year that the Oregon Shakespeare Festival brought in for the city of Ashland, and that was phenomenal. I know it's coming back, like it's the subscriptions and everything, it's resurging. Totally. So that is very good to see. But it went through some dark times the past 5 years.
It did. And that's working its way into the series as the series has grown too, which is kind of fun because the series has been able to parallel a lot of the real life experiences that we had in Ashland. But after that first research trip, I came home, I got to work, I wrote 3 chapters, I wrote a series proposal, I sketched out what the first 3 books would be like. My agent submitted it and it sold 2 weeks later, and I was off to the races. And early on, I knew that Juliet Montague Capshaw, was going to be a pastry chef who had come home to heal her broken heart and help run her family bake shop Tort with her mom, Helen. And Helen has been running the bake shop for decades, since Jules was a little girl. Jules' dad died when she was young, so that's not a spoiler. Like, he's never involved in the books, although there is one book in which we get to sort of flashback and meet him. And Helen is sort of like the town therapist. Everyone comes in for a delicious latte and one of her, beautiful orange cardamom scones, let's say, because that's on my mind right now, because the next book is Sticks and Scones, but also for her listening ear. And I had Jules and Helen pretty solid because I was using that concept of the Gilmore Girls with Lorelai and Rory as my model. And the rest of the cast, I still have the just sheet of paper that I started sketching out names randomly: Sterling, Andy, Steph, Richard, Lord, and the professor. And that was kind of what I started with. And I had no idea that fast forward 19 books later, not only would there be a group of readers who adore Jules, but that they would also like have such an attachment to this bigger and broader cast too, which is so cool.
Yeah, and it's been great to see the cast grow over the course of the 19 books too. And one thing that is, what book were we on when, or were you on when we moved?
I was trying to think about that too. I think I was working on Another One Bites the Crust, or Till Death Do Us Part. No, it would have been Another One Bites the Crust, I think. Maybe Live and Let Pie.
It was Live and Let Pie, because that was the lake, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So for those darlings out there who don't know, like, we lived in Ashland for almost 7 years.
Yes.
Yeah. And we moved there because of this series. Like, we never would have, I think we were at a point, I think, in both our lives where we needed a change, and we thought, that things like we were going to Ashland like, I don't know, 4 or 5 times a year.
Yeah.
And we just decided, let's see what it's like to live there, and it was phenomenal. I mean, there were some downsides, like I said, the smoke would be in one of them. The fact that town almost burned down a few years ago. The wind's blowing the other direction, and it's kind of bad news for Ashland. But it was that the thing, I guess, that I was always like felt really proud of, and could tell that you did too, was just the number of comments you got from like lifelong residents of Ashland who became fans of the series early on, who were like, you just nailed it, like, in terms of the setting and the kind of vibe of the town and everything. And that was really cool. Because that was all, those comments were happening before we moved there. So it wasn't that we didn't, well, you lived there, so of course you know it. No, it was that you do a lot of research, and like your settings are real, and you like to make them accurate. Now, some of it's not accurate. Like, Ashland is 20,000 residents, so no, like 20 people have not been murdered in the last 8 years, 10 years there. But so just take that with a grain of salt, I guess. But yeah.
That's my favorite story. We came down for the very first book talk, and I don't usually get nervous speaking in front of people. Like, I love meeting readers in real life. And if you have met me like this, I'm the exact same in person, right? But I was nervous to speak to an entire audience of Ashland local residents because same thing. At that point in time, we'd come down 5, 6, 7 times before the first book was published. But I wanted to make sure that I had captured the tone and the spirit. And I did a talk upstairs at Bloomsbury Books, and I was like sick to my stomach. I think I made you pull over and like I had to go to the bathroom before the talk because I was like, oh my gosh, like this is what if they all hate it? And I did the talk and I was kind of trying to gauge the audience and people were laughing and smiling. And then at the end, so I was feeling better. I was feeling more relaxed as the talk went on. And then at the very end, I was like, well, are there any questions? And I swear, like every single hand
Yeah,
in
it
the
was.
audience.
It's a lot. I was like, I kind of just kind of inched toward the back, you know, I was like, oh God, I'm leaving.
Oh no, this can be bad and
Yeah.
just bad. I'm like prepping myself for it, like clenching. And the woman's like, we just need to tell you that there's never been a murder in like, however many years. I was like, okay, phew, all right, well, yeah.
Yeah. For the most part, everybody is super positive about it. They love it. There is that one contingent of people who are just the sword that they're going to die on is that it's not Mount McLaughlin, it's Mount.
Yeah, there is a whole contingent of yes, because the mountains have other names. Yeah, it's funny. There will be local readers who have certain, and they grew up in the region. Like I totally understand, but yeah, they'll have specific things where it's like, no, Ellie, and some of the things like I've intentionally, and the reason why I can't even tell you, like I changed Oberons to Pucks because I love Puck. He's my favorite character from A Midsummer Night's Dream. And like I take the base of some place like that, but then I make it my own. And like with Paddington Station, which is the real name of the mercantile in town, the store that's phenomenal, that we've partnered for tons of events and will this year for Mystery Fest, I changed it to London Station because I wanted it to feel like British. So I will do that a lot of times too. I'll just like tweak real places and then, include some other things. The one thing I knew from the beginning was anything that would have a negative connotation to it, I would make a name up for. So if you come to Ashland, you can see the real places easily. And we did this last year at Mystery Fest, and we'll do it again this year. You can see Mix is where I imagine Tort would sit. That's the Bakeshop in the series. You can see A Rose by Any Other Name is really Manzanita Flowers. Like you can go through the whole town. And some of those things I renamed and some I didn't. But across the plaza is where Richard Lord, Jules' nemesis, he owns the Mary Windsor Hotel, and the Mary Windsor is just decrepit and falling apart. And there is not really a hotel across the street. That's fictional because if it was a real place, I wouldn't want to throw shade at it.
Right.
Although I did learn this was many years after we had been living there. So that building is really City Hall, but it was originally a hotel. So maybe, I don't know, Richard Lord existed 150 years ago in Ashland.
Well, and not to throw shade, but that building is also a little decrepit and falling apart. Like it is like, it's not seismically safe. So it needs to be like there's a whole thing going on right now about building a new city hall. And it's been going on for years because that building is old and it is not, it needs help.
It's old, it needs help. Yeah. But I wish I could articulate why with my creative process, why sometimes I'm like, oh yeah, that's going to be the real name of something like Ashland Springs Hotel. I kept that name. I don't know why. I liked it. And then other times I'll be like, no, that needs a whole, the Green Goblin is a restaurant and a pub that doesn't exist either, but I liked the space on the end of the corner there across the street from Lithia Park. So,
Yeah.
That's how it went. The thing that I really found, and it never went away, and it'll be funny being back in Ashland in a month or two, is after writing a series for so long, the secondary cast, well, all of the cast are just such a part of me. I don't have to think about the way that Lance is going to show up in a scene. Like, I know what he's going to do. I know what he's going to be wearing. I know the flourish that he's going to have. The same goes for Andy. He just feels like a little brother to me. I want to hug Andy. Well, the entire time that we lived there would really not be a day that would go by where I would be like starting off the day writing or whatever and think like, well, I should just pop down to Tort and see like what's on the menu today. And I'd have to stop myself and be like, it's not real. That's in your head. Like,
Although it became real for our friends that we made living there, because they would often say, "Do you want to go get a coffee at Tort?" And we just knew that they meant mix, you know. So it was like that part was pretty fun. That you know, even people who had lived there far longer than we had were suddenly living in that alternate, you know, reality of the Bakeshop Mysteries.
Yeah, which is so cool and still surreal to me.
Yeah.
And then, so again, this is not really a spoiler, but at the beginning of the series, when Jules moves back home, she finds a little apartment above the outdoor store elevation that she rents. And then, you know, maybe she stays. This is a spoiler. Guess what? She is going to stay because we're on book 19. So I think you'll figure that out, right?
And maybe Jules is still alive and she is still investigating crimes. Yeah. In Ashland.
Go figure. So I just saw this like little sign for rent for this apartment when we were there one of the first times. And I was like, oh, well, that's where she'll live because she can just walk downstairs and walk down to the block to Tort and she'll be in the know and she has to pass Richard Lord every day. Like, this is perfect. Well, fast forward 5 or 6 years later, I'm out for a walk in Lithia Park and that entire building is engulfed in flames. It totally burned down. Like, it destroyed the Mountain Hardware was the real name of the shop and the apartment above it. Like,
yeah, that was really sad. When all 5 of the Ashland fire trucks showed up to fight that fire. So
I know, seriously though, but like,
it was really sad. Last time we were there, it was still under construction too. Like they're still trying to restore it because all these, just so like for those who aren't familiar with Ashland, all the buildings on the plaza are like historic buildings.
Yes,
they've been around for over 100 years for sure. But I mean, maybe closer to 2. I don't at this point now. I'm not sure, but they're all very, very old buildings, and so when they have flooded in the past, which has happened a few times, and then obviously when they catch on fire, like it takes a lot of work to restore them.
Yeah. And then I would say like one of the challenges at this stage of the game is, as we experienced, Ashland went through monumental changes over the course of what has it been now, like 15, 16 years of writing this series. And that has to parallel at some level in the books, right? Mm-hmm. And so the con, I would say, potentially, of writing a long-running series with this long-running cast and secondary characters as well is, how do they change and grow? Like, is it realistic that they stay at Tort forever? How do all of their arcs and journeys align? If you think about any sort of retail or restaurant, bake shop, you name it, like there's always kind of this ebb and flow of staff and customers and people. And Ashland really has, I would say, more than anywhere else we've ever lived, there is really kind of this sort of nomadic culture to it because actors come in for a season at Oregon Shakespeare Festival or at the Oregon Cabaret, and they come and go. And so you have a lot of that. But I also don't want readers to murder me because at some point in time, I don't know, one of your favorite cast might have to be a suspect, move on. Ooh. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah. Well, and it also related to that just time passing and the growth and the change and everything that has actually given you the opportunity to include various things as plot points or actual characters within many of the books. And we won't go into details because some of them will get a little spoilery. But it has been interesting that there's a lot of stuff that happens in a small town.
There's so much stuff. Like, it's never a problem to come up with material at all. Like, I have too much material. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then thinking about, just sort of real things that we would experience that I would be like, well, okay, there's an entire plot for a book now.
Right.
Um, going back to Live and Let Pie, this is not a spoiler because when you get to this book, this is like the back cover content. So you'll know
Yeah.
this right away.
Totally.
But the lake had been really low, Immigrant Lake, which is just right on the outskirts of town. And there was a big story in the paper about how while the lake levels were so low, this entire town that was long buried underwater, two young girls had been swimming and could see like the gumball machine from the gas station. And I was like, what? There's a town buried under the lake? Okay. And so that becomes the whole premise for Live and Let Pie.
Yeah, and then it wasn't until several years after you wrote that book, when we were unfortunately in a terrible, terrible drought that led to a lot of wildfire danger. But we went out for a hike at that lake and we saw stuff.
Yes.
We saw remnants of some of the buildings. We saw there's an engine from a car.
Full-on engine, yeah.
Like an old engine from a car, because it was part of the auto shop that had been there in the town, was just sitting there in the lake, in the dry lake bed. Right next to the foundation of what used to be the wooden building for that auto shop. It was that was wild to see that. And this was an intentional flooding. Like
right.
Just so people know, it was like they rerouted the highway and they built the highway, and so
and then
everybody knew the town was going to be flooded. Like it wasn't like it wasn't. We just talked in a previous episode about, or maybe it was in the after party, about your love of natural disasters and fictional, like not like the actual, like not destruction and death and everything in real life. But this was not one of those. This was like an intentional decision made to do that. But very cool nonetheless, and very cool that it made it into the plot of a book.
Everything makes its way into everything's fair game, but that reminds me, like, I remember I got email from a reader saying, I think you made a mistake on this because you talk about the fact that they dammed the lake. And I'm like, no, they dammed the upper lakes and they created, I know.
Yeah. Well, without naming names or doing any spoilers, that on that, going back to that first research trip that we went down for, you were sitting in Mix and met the eventual murder victim of Meet Your Baker.
Yes, I did. Nancy Hudson.
Yeah.
I've told this story a zillion times, but it's always worth a retelling because it's so good. It's just like the universe was like, oh, here you go. I'm just going to plant this in your lap for you. Yeah, I was sitting in the corner taking notes. You and Sky Guy were off adventuring. And this woman came in and she was horrible, just absolutely horrible. Cut the line, started berating the poor barista, screaming that her coffee was supposed to be 180 degrees and it was clearly only 165. And I'm thinking, do you walk around with a thermometer in your
She
purse?
probably does.
She probably
Unfortunately,
does.
she probably does. Yeah.
Too shy. And she just made this giant scene. She was horrendous. And so I just made a little note in my notebook, like, well, you can die in a book. And lo and behold, she does.
Did. Yeah.
Yeah. So you never know who's watching.
Yeah. Yeah. Be kind to your barista I mean, real life happenings in Ashland have made their way into the selection of other murder victims in later books in this series as well. So,
well, and then throughout the series, getting to do things like Catch Me If You Candy is all about the Halloween parade, and the Halloween parade in Ashland is like nothing you can imagine. I know, and I've heard from readers like, "Oh, this is so over the top." I'm like, "No, this is real."
If anything, it's not enough. It's not over the top enough, right?
Yeah, the costume level is on par with, I don't know, like the Halloween Ashland version of some fashion runway show. I don't know. I can't even come up with an analogy, but I think because there's such an artistic community and you have so many theater people in town, and it used to be that the parade would happen right as OSF went dark for the season. Now they've cut their schedule short a little bit. So it was like everyone would want to let off steam, but the costumes are out of this world. They are what you would see on the stage. Like you cannot just show up. I mean, you can, but most people do not just show up with something off the rack from Target. Like you bring it.
Okay, so I've while we've been talking here, knowing that this is a like Back to the Bakeshop series, and you've got a new book coming out very soon. I've got some impromptu questions.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and I know the answers to all these, but because and a lot of the darlings probably do too, but a lot of these are, it never ceases to amaze me how many times you can tell the same stories and people go, that's real. We're like, didn't you just hear this last year? No. Okay, whatever. But hey, that's great. Entertainment for everyone. But for those listening who aren't familiar with the series, should people start at the beginning of the series? Should they start with Meet Your Baker? Can they pick up any book and start reading? I know your personal thoughts on this, but I just want you to tell everybody.
Yeah. I mean, I think you should start from the beginning. I do. Because there's so much character development that I have poured into the series, right? But technically speaking, you can pick up any of the books as a standalone and start there. And I would say I have heard from probably an equal amount of readers who have either started from book 1 and come along the whole way, and readers who have picked up, let's say, book 12 and then gone back, or, like popped through and read all over the place, which, my OCD mind cannot handle. But they are written in a way that each book is a standalone. And hopefully, if I've done my job well as a writer, I'm giving you enough kind of breadcrumbs about where Jules is at and kind of the secondary cast that you at least have an understanding of what's going on.
And that's great. But I will say, I'm gonna like, from my point of view, readers, if you pick up book 14 and then you go back to book 1, do not, and I mean do not, send an email to Ellie asking, "Where's Marty in this one?"
Yeah.
Where, like, I mean, just say, if you're going to go backwards in the series, just understand that some of the people that you meet later in the series might not be at the beginning of the series,
they might not be at the beginning, right? We grow and develop like we do in real life.
It's you meet new people. So
your world expands.
Just do not send those emails, because people send those emails and it's just like,
Okay.
That was a good one. I might get in a lot of trouble for asking this, but
okay.
I mean, from you.
Okay.
How many Bakeshop Mysteries are there going to be? Hey, we ask the hard-hitting questions here on Reality Rights. So.
Oh no, I don't know. I really don't know. That's the answer.
That's a cop-out. That's a politician's answer if I've ever heard one.
That's right. For sure, 21. Definitely 21.
Right.
I already know what I want to write for book 22, so I would say for sure 22.
Oh, wow. We just went up 1 in like 5 seconds. The series just increased by 1. That's awesome.
And then I don't know after that. Because there can't be spoilers, but for anyone who is caught, any darlings who are caught up, like, what's happening with Jules and the rest of the team at Tort at this point in time. I'm not at a point where I'm like, I don't want to write these. I guess that's like when I get to the point that I'm like, ugh, I have to write another Bakeshop. Then it's time to be done. I always get excited at the end of a book. I'm already like thinking ahead to who's coming next, but there does have to be an ending at some point. I know how it ends. I know exactly how it ends. I just don't know when it ends.
Okay. Well, I mean, there could be, like, I know, what is that, like Midsummer Murders, that TV series, isn't there like 138 seasons of that show or something? So it seems like,
but at some point the darlings are going to be like, just kill it, just
all right. So that follow-up question: if the darlings want more Bakeshop Mysteries more than 22, what can they do to convince you?
Send me pie. No.
Oh, wow. Wow.
I'm trying to.
Wow.
I have these two crows at the little community pool where I go to swim,
Your own
and
little murder.
I have my own murder of crows. And Sky Guy has been having, I feed them peanuts every time I swim. And now they just like watch over me in the pool, which is great. But Sky Guy is trying to get me to train them. And just last week, for the first time, they left me a pebble in my shoe. And so now Sky Guy's like, leave a quarter in your shoe and make them bring you money. No, pie. Could a crow bring me pie?
Right.
What could they do? I don't know. I'm not sure.
Okay.
Could they do anything? No, I mean, they could just keep loving the series and telling me that they love it. But I think I will also, like, when I know that it has to end, I know that I will know that that's a lot of no's. I will use my intuition. So even if the darlings want more, at that point, when I have this sense of like, this is the beat, this is where it needs to end, I will probably end it.
Okay. That's fair.
Maybe there could be a spinoff in the future.
Okay.
Maybe.
Spinoffs. That
could be.
That could be interesting. Are we talking a Richard Lord series? Or are we, where the villain is the amateur sleuth?
Yeah.
Hey, has it been done? I don't know. Would it be popular? I don't know.
Oh, who's to say? I'm thinking Lance. Lance gets a spinoff at some point.
Lance would be a good spinoff.
Yeah.
Okay, so you know how it's going to end. What color do you want the last book in the Bakeshop series to be?
Black.
Black. Whoa.
I'm kidding. Whoa. I'm kidding.
There's no way that SMP would let that happen.
There's no chance. I've always wanted a beautiful brown cover.
Brown,
pink and brown. I really wanted that for Till Death Do Us Part, and they said we cannot do brown in a cozy. Like cozies cannot be brown.
Ooh, so, that kind of goes back to an episode we did about cozy mysteries. Like, why? Why can't they be brown?
I think brown could be beautiful. It's one of my favorite colors. It's fallish.
That's
brown
weird.
Is like coffee. You know, it could be like a latte. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Or just black with a lot of blood splatter. No, I'm kidding. Jules has been the killer the whole time. That's the twist.
Right. No. Brown though. Like cozies can't be brown. Cozies
can't be brown.
That is, I don't agree with that.
I don't either.
It's weird. Huh.
We'll prove them wrong.
Nice. Well, we've talked about the Mystery Fest. I know we had an episode about the Ashland Mystery Festival and everything. We talked about some of our favorite places and everything. I know you have a number of favorite places in Ashland. If anybody's visiting for the first time, whether it's a Mystery Fest or just visiting, and they have picked up one of the books, like, what are the top 3 things that are Bakeshop related that they should do when they visit Ashland, Oregon?
Oh, they should take a backstage tour of OSF.
Okay.
Or see a play there. But either or, 100%. If you can see a play in the Elizabethan, Shakespeare Under the Stars, even if it's 185 degrees, it's worth it.
Well, I don't, I would just say stay away from late July for like
in the shoulder season. May, September, early October, perfect choices. You can always put a blanket on if it's chilly too, and get a hot chocolate.
Right. I was like, wait, where are we going with this? It's 185. We don't need a blanket.
No, I'm saying October.
Okay. All right. Got it. Yeah.
Okay. Yes. That's number 1. Number 2, you should go to Mix. Because then you can stand in front of the Bakeshop and see Jules' whole view of the plaza. Ironically,
go to Mix, not Remix.
Not Remix, no.
Although you can go to Remix, but just know that is not part of the Bakeshop lore. Mix opened a second location that's closer down to Southern Oregon University at the other end of town, and it is wonderful as well, but it's not where Tort
No.
is in the books.
Although, funny story, I have heard from a number of readers who will be like, Jules cannot open this many restaurants in town. So, like, as the series has gone on, Jules has some other little side gigs. And I will say that is inspired by Mix, because Mix owns a lot of, and that happened over the course of the time that we were there. Flip, the burger shop, like,
Yeah, in fact, the family that owns Mix, like and I'm not talking, it's not a big family. It's like, these are like brothers and sisters.
Yeah.
They own like 7 or 8 restaurants in Ashland. So people can own more than one business. True story.
That's real. Yeah, I know. I didn't make that part up, but it will be funny because, readers can suspend belief about like 20 murders in Ashland, but then they're like, she can't be, she's too busy. Like,
right.
She is,
How could she possibly do that?
Okay, and then my third is Lithia Park. You have to go at least walk through Lithia Park and see the duck pond, walk up to the upper duck pond, maybe even do a whole little loop so you get the aerial view of Ashland and the hills. And
just don't pet the bears.
Don't pet the bears. No. Yeah. Good advice.
In all seriousness, you're unlikely to actually see a bear while walking through Lithia Park. It happens, but not very often. You will see deer. You will definitely see deer. Also, do not pet the deer. Do not try to feed the deer.
We covered that.
We covered this in other episodes. Stay away from the deer. Take pictures from afar. Yeah. Do not pet the deer. Yeah.
Well, on that note, I think that's a great place to end it.
Cool.
Save a life. Don't pet the deer.
Exactly. That is right.
And maybe we'll see you in Ashland.
That's right. Not petting the deer.
Till next time.
Till next time.